boys and girls, this is the summer lab. Somehow it's the summer lab. It does not feel like a summer lab. It feels like a winter lab because it's like 13 degrees and grey here in Scotland. We have with us in the Carrot Corner Studios Reggie, who is up first, who's getting his game reviewed, who is the creator, the life giver to Disc Boys and girls, this is the summer.
Hello, everyone watching.
And we also have the usual suspects here from previous weeks. We have Chris.
Howdy.
We have Nate.
Hey, guys.
We have Vinod.
Hello.
And you guys are going to be reviewing Reggie with me first. And then what I'm going to do is make it quite interactive today. We have a student that can't be here that sent in their sample that is eligible for Silver Lab. So we're going to go over their database. I don't know much about them at all. They just sent me on Discord. And we're going to get you guys to diagnose their leaks. We're going to look at their graph, we're going to look at their stats, and we'll see if I agree, right? So we're going to do that together as a group, and then we'll move on to the rest of your databases. Let's make today more interactive. Let's work together as a team here. Do some diagnostic work. Thoughts on the moustache, guys? What do you think? Yes or no? Be honest. I can handle it. I can handle your honest opinions.
I think you look handsome either way.
That's a cop-out. I think that's a cop-out. Anyone else? Okay, no thoughts on the moustache. It says it all. It says it all, guys. The silence is deafening. Anyway, you can let me know what you think in the chat. Well, we're trying this out. It's an experiment. So, we've got this red line, kind of flat, very volatile, swingy game of Reggie that we looked at last time. And Reggie, we basically said that you were prone to increasing variance, not in a great way, with some pretty big swings and some mistakes in big pots. That's where we were at last time. We were talking about red leaks primarily, was it?
Yes.
Bad bets and raises, right? For anyone that doesn't know what that means, a red leak is a bad bet or a raise. If you get the free starter kit, by the way, guys, at Carrot Corner, you get your primary leak diagnosed for free. It's a good place to start. We'll then send you on a 1,000 hand mission to try and fix that leak using the proper hand review method at Carrot Corner's 3 videos. They're completely free. Get the starter kit. I'll put a link into the description for that. There should be one already, actually, in the description for that. Looks like Scam Artist Uncle. That's an excellent look for trying to sell people poker courses, because it's not like poker coaches have any kind of reputation for being shillers already or anything, right? So that's good. That's good. If you ever watched Napoleon Dynamite, oh god, I'm like the dad from Napoleon Dynamite. That is not one of my life goals. Like, I never watched that. When I watched that movie at 16, I never aspired to be. I think his name was Kit. I think that was his name. I don't know why I remember that, but pretty sure that was his name. Never aspired to be Kit. But welcome along, guys. Welcome along. So, what I want to do today is review your recent sample, Reggie, because I want to get your game in its most recent state. And most importantly, I don't want you to be able to say, oh, no, that was me 3 months ago. I would never do that now. I want to see what you were up to this week. How's it been going? How's your game been feeling since our last call?
Yeah, so just a few notes on that. So since we discussed my play last time, so you advised me to 3-bet more in big blind and button, small blind and so on. So I think the red line keeps straight there because I do 3-bet quite a bit more. And also, I continue for B33 much more often than I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why that red line is so flat in the last 7,000 hands.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple tilting plays, I can admit, and I know I caught myself a couple of times, and I stopped playing, just take a break after I felt that, I'm a bit starting tilting. And there was really few bad beats where my equity was 85% or so and just get beaten and stuff like that. So I think I run quite bad compared to EV in the last month. So I think I should have been positive, but yeah, because a bit unlucky, got negative.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about results over EV or results over these samples. 7,000 hands, it can feel relevant. It is absolutely noise, and we just have to keep focusing on what it is you're doing and what you're fixing. So let's do that. Yeah. We can do There's various things we can do with your game today. We can scan for mistakes. We can look at blue mistakes. We can look at. I don't think you'll have that many green leaks. I don't think you're the sort of player that misses loads of investments or anything. I would say a good place to start is just like having everyone look at this and scan these boards and action sequences. And what do you guys notice? What stands out here in Reggie's game? Do you see any hands there where you're like, oh, that looks interesting? What happened there? I know this can be a bit tough to read in this format, but anything jumping out at you guys? Mathemagical says I'm getting Freddie Mercury vibes. Yeah. I was doing a rendition of Don't Stop Me Now the other day when I shaved off all the stubble, and then that was my first instinct, was to go full Freddie.
Okay.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to see a little bit, but I think the highlighted blue hand, the fourth hand from the top, if I'm reading it right, it looks like you check called on the flop with ace king and then check turn and then bet river.
Mhm.
I don't know what the size is, but that could potentially be like a red leak type bet, because it seems like just very bird's eye view looking at it. It looks kind of like a worse hands call, better hands, or better hands call, worse hands fold type of bet.
Sort of potential polarization error type of red leak. Okay, let's take
Yeah.
a look. And those are a type of red leaks. Red leaks can be bad bluffs where you are betting for a decent reason, which is bluffing, but you're just overestimating your fold equity. Sometimes that's wishful thinking, sometimes that's just bad hand reading or ranging. You can also have a red leak that is a bad value bet because you genuinely think you're betting for value, but it's too thin. And then you can have a red leak that is just some miscellaneous spew. So those are the three broad types. And Lewis is wanting to look at 8-6 off, king 10 off, ace 9 off. We'll come back. We'll circle around to those, Lewis. Okay, so this is limp pot. We have ace king. I want to see how big do you want to go here, Nate, since you're on screen. What do you want to make it here if you're big blind?
Well, so normally I'd raise to about 4. There's 2 limpers, so probably like 6 or 7 big blinds.
Okay, yeah, I like
That's
this.
8's good too.
I like
Yeah.
8, yeah. I think eight's a pretty nice way to play this hand. You're basically hard punishing people for never protecting a limping range. Like in theory, there'd be some degree of trap going on by both players, probably. It would be low frequency for button, higher frequency for cutoff, and well-constructed limp ranges. I know it's weird to talk about the theoretical limp range because it's not really a thing, quote unquote, but it's important to note that this is very, very capped, and because of that, sizes like 11 big blinds here are good. Like if you go 11 big blinds and everybody folds, that's a really good result for ace king offsuit. This hand is not entitled to 2.5 big blinds of EV here overall, so taking down this entire pot right now would be incredible, or 3.5 depending on how you want to look at it. So predictably at 5-L we get called by both limpers. They do not give a shit, and we have a check from hero, which I think is fine. And we face this. So Nate, you brought up this hand. You had a problem with Reggie's play here. Let's stir the pot between my students and make them argue with each other. What do you think about this flop call to start with, Nate?
Yeah, looking at this flop card. So going back to pre-flop, Villain 5 did have a broken stack, which kind of points to them being more of a recreational player. So just starting with that. But yeah, they're betting. If this were a heads up, the call here would kind of make a bit more sense. But yeah, given that it's half pot and he's betting into 2 opponents, that kind of speaks to the strength of Villain 5's hand a little bit. So it seems just really heavy, like pair weighted, like Jack X or maybe even like some 4X. I mean, they limp called pre-flop, they could have a pretty wide range, but when they're betting into multiple people, it's generally like this drive board is generally not with like pure air.
Reggie, do you want to defend the play? Do you agree with Nate? How do you feel about it?
I still think and I see a lot of people having backdoor aces and backdoor straight draws like 9, 10, 10 jack, 10 queen, 10 king, that kind of hand. Even sometimes you can see 7, 8, 8, 9 of diamonds, hearts, or clubs there.
You forgot 6, 7. How could you forget 6, 7?
I just don't want to mention that. Just
All right.
exactly that's the reason why.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, I coach under 21 bridge in Scotland, and for a period of time, everything was 6, 7. And because bridge is a card game, they were able to say 6, 7 like quite often, and it was yeah.
So the thing is, because the board is so dry, I know you could bet maybe pairs of 5s, 6s, and 7s, but also backdoor wheel draws with the backdoor. So it's so many, and nobody's shown really a strength. So I don't really take into account that it bets in two people.
Well, I
No.
think the third player was Button, right? So he hasn't really made any action yet. I think if it was the Button making this bet, it would be a lot more likely to be just like a random stab with air. But when when the cutoff does this, it's more likely to be some value.
Yeah, so with that too, the from the cutoff's perspective, the button is still uncapped because they still
Right.
went to the flop without taking it. Like
Exactly,
they
yeah.
checked in flow, called in flow. They haven't done anything.
Yeah,
Like,
but because,
so he's
because
betting.
that guy is, as I say, looks like a recreational player. I don't think it takes into account there's a two players or anything like that. A lot of them just do, from my experience, a lot of them do just tap and give up kind of thing if they're not improving the flush draw or something like that, or if they catch the pair or.
All right, so we've heard from most people. Vinod, I've not heard from you. What side of the aisle do you want to come down on here? Are you with Chris and Nate, or are you with Reggie on this one?
Yeah, I mean the cutoff is also a passive player, because he limp called, he's not somebody who takes initiative. So betting half pot seems quite strong. Although it's annoying, that you raise with ace king. So I understand the sentiment to maybe peel one. It's not looking good already for ace king.
Okay.
I 100% agree with what Bernard said, and then I also want to add on top of that that there aren't really that many obvious bluffs here. Like to us, like studying poker and everything, like yeah, like 5-6 suited stuff like that seems kind of like an intuitive bluff, but to like a clear recreational player, they're just gonna be like, oh, I have 3 to a straight, my hand sucks. Bleh. Check.
Okay, chat, you're the jury. Do you find the defendant, Reggie, guilty or not guilty of a blue leak on the flop here? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how do you find the defendant? Now we wait. Defendant, let's get you on screen. Say hi to the chat. Say hi to the jury. That's you, Reggie. You there?
Well, I would not say this is absolutely profitable line. I'd say that just maybe break even kind of play.
You're pleading break
So
even.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not super happy about it, but I'm not thinking that's the worst line.
Okay, so we have one verdict then. Accrual Games says guilty. Anyone else? I mean, jury can't be one person. That's not very fair. Delay? We don't have much of a delay, do we? I think the delay is just the natural delay. I hope. Guilty, says Arian. I think that leak will end up in the red line, not the blue. I think that's a very good point by Solwa, that you'll end up actually folding later quite a lot. Double paired board multi-way pot with that bet size is 100% fold equity every time with this texture. Yeah, so the verdict from the jury is guilty. As the judge, I have the ability to repeal the jury's verdict because this is not a democracy. This is a sort of, what do you call it? A dictatorship. So in this instance, I'm not going to do that. I'm fine with the guilty verdict. The problem is that, well, what did you guys do well, first of all? So you all spent a lot of time talking about the villain's range, which is very important. That's hand reading 101. What's this guy got? And they do have some air, and they have a lot of good hands too. And what's important here is to zoom out and not see this as like, not just remember the times you've seen people stab overall, but the times you've seen, and not even the times you've seen because your memory is unreliable, but you want to think about how often a player who limps before the flop as the first player into the pot, the open limper, then donk bets quite a lot of big blinds. I know it's less than half pot, but it's still quite a lot of big blinds. It's not like a half pot stab in a single raise pot when you check as the pre-flop raiser in a tiny pot. This is a big pot. This is like a 3-bet pot size. So how often does someone that limps pre just want to randomly take initiative like this for 11 or 12 big blinds in this situation with air? The answer is not very often. Not never, but very few of the people who limp pre-flop as the first player to act do this with air. So I do think guilty of blue leak is the verdict here. And I think that, Vinod, you made a really good point about the limper not being someone. It's like the last video we put out, which is about trying to figure out who people are in the hand you're playing, right? Instead of waiting for reads to develop from showdowns or stats. And in this hand, we can just sort of say people who limp don't often do this. Now, Reggie, I think where I have some sympathy is that you are right that people do stab when checked to a lot randomly. It's just not so much open limpers in this specific situation in a bigger pot for a decent amount of big blinds. It's just not there. But absolutely, is that if this was like blind versus blind and you'd opened and villain called the big blind and you checked the flop and they bet half pot, I'm not folding ace king because they have so much random shit, but they don't elect to do that as frequently here. So you guys did a great job there of hand reading the opponent. The part you didn't do a good job of, because it's maybe just not accessible to any of you in game at this moment in time, and that's fine, is actually calculating pot odds, EV, realizability, equity, that sort of thing. So you need to call half pot, you need 25%, right? So to call this, you need a bit less than that, but that's not equity. That's actually EV, pot share EV, pot entitlement, we call it in grade 1, which is in Silver Carat. And once you understand that it's EV you need here, the problem is that your equity doesn't get realized, because there's two types of opponent here generally. There's someone who is just wanting to win this pot because they've just bet 12 big blinds, quite a lot of big blinds, and for them to be bluffing with nothing here, it isn't because they have 5-6 and they know it's a good hand. I think it was it Nate that said that they're not studied. You said they're not studied like we are. I thought that was an excellent comment. And
Yeah.
that was an example of you removing yourself from the population and seeing them as the other, which they are. It's us and them, guys. It's us who try and study poker and take it seriously. And if you're playing 5NL, it's them. There's no other you in this pool. It's you and them. And they don't know that 6-5 is a good stab here or 10-9. They're as likely to bet a random hand as they are those hands, but it's just going to be low frequency. So that was an excellent point as well. So how do you
I think this spot also, I do reconsider what I would do by thinking about what would they start with. So I would consider obviously mid pairs like, and also I would consider they would do that with 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10, and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
that's why I'm kind of on the board for making a call.
Yeah, try not to do that. That's the worst thing you can do, is project some of the stuff that you know onto the 5NL pool, because they're not you. With a middle pair, this is a polarization error. Villain's doing this with 7s. This is just too much money to put in. With that hand, I think you've got to go smaller. But that said, I would expect it sometimes. But the thing is, you're losing to 7s. You're going to struggle to do well against 7s. Like, you're a dog. Considerable dog. And if they have a jack, you're a considerable dog, because they sometimes have a king or an ace with that, and then one of your outs is actually dead. You're just not getting 25% pot share, because they're going to end up betting the turn a lot, because they're passive in the first place. They're going to have a jack, they're going to bet the turn a lot. If they have a jack, they're likely to bet the turn fairly often, and you don't even get that second card that you need in order to have that much equity. So yeah, the merges are a problem. The value hands are a problem. Your lack of realizability and passes to showdown are a problem. The taintedness of your outs are a problem. The overall inconsistency of an open limper bluffing in this way with nothing is a problem. And the projecting of your thoughts onto the opponent is the explanation for why you call here. So, chat saying some interesting stuff. Villain has like 7-7 here a lot. I agree. It does happen. It does happen. And a fish is actually more likely to merge a pair than they are to bluff the 6-5. And that's what you have to understand about fish. So many regs get that wrong, right? They think that the GTO bluff is the one the fish is going to use. The fish is more likely to bet with 8s here than with 10-9. Even though that's a bit backwards. Yeah, clear fold for sure in terms of EV. Turn. Check, check, river. Well, now there's some incentive to bluff here. I mean, Villain does have some of these merges. They have a jack a lot. Sometimes that's queen jack. Sometimes they were bluffing flop and they've hit a queen. I'm not really elated about my fold equity here, to be honest.
I think this is a spot where I would have think that it must have something like 5, 6, 7s, 8, 9s, because it probably will double stab any of his backdoor draws.
That's not what you said earlier. That's the exact opposite of what you said earlier. But you said
No,
they're going to bet
after
once
seeing
and then
the
give
turn
up.
check. After the turn check, that's why I'm thinking now is more.
But earlier on, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, you said the reason you called flop was that people bet and then give up a lot.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you think they bet and give up a lot, you then have to put a lot of air in their range as well, right? If you think they bet flop with air and they give up with air a lot in the turn, you have to put a lot of that in their range
No,
too.
I mean both would either backdoor the draws and also mid-ranging pairs.
Sure, that's
So
not
I
really
think- I
giving
think
up
they
though.
check-
That's just like checking because you have a middling hand, right? So give up to me means they could have bluffed, but they've got air. But okay, I'm with you.
No, also the same thing with 5-6. Obviously 5 it gets there now, so 6, 7, 7, 8. Once I make a call, then obviously I should have something, and isn't likely to be folded on the turn. So I think they check back with both. They back doors, maybe some ace highs.
Run me through that last sentence again. Just I didn't quite follow.
I said they could check back after I call the turn. Obviously, then it's very likely that I'm continuing within that hand. I might have like full house with the jack, maybe ace 4 or something like that. So I think they do give up a lot.
It's
there,
likely
so
that
they
you
check.
have ace 4.
Yeah.
If you check call the flop.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think ace 4 is a tiny part of your range. But I'm not sure how
Well,
that's...
that's what I mean. They would check with both, say, hands like 7, 8. They would check ace 3, ace deuce. They would check pocket 7s, pocket 6s if they have those. So that's kind of range I would think they are here with. And
Okay.
I'm still having some 10 jack, queen, king, queen. Well, probably a fold king, queen there, but maybe ace, queen. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd worry a bit less about what you have for now in your range. I wouldn't go there. And I would focus more on their range and whether check is better than bet. So how do you think we make that decision? Whether bet's better or whether check's better? What kind of thought process would lead us to that decision?
So at the moment, I just like consider what they potentially have, and either bluff or. So this is at the end. I think I bluffed because I say queen is good for me. I still have queen jack. I wouldn't bet the flop there with.
So that's not, that doesn't
Maybe-
follow.
maybe-
That doesn't follow.
Maybe king
The
jack.
fact that you can have some value hands is not a license to bluff in any spot. There's lots of spots where your range contains value hands where it's not good to bluff. So you've told me that you think their range contains some weak hands, like 6s and 7s, and you think those hands could fold. But when we're considering bluffing, we should be weighing up our fold equity against hands that beat us, mostly, not just random hands. So like, villain having ace 3 is not a strong reason to bet the river yourself, because ace king is beating ace 3, and if you check, villain will check ace 3 some amount of the time and you will win. So I suppose what I'm getting at here is that you're not really weighing up whether check is better than bluff, you're just weighing up whether there are some reasons to bluff. And then you're deciding, I can see some reasons to bluff, and then you're betting. Is that fair, or am I missing something in your thought process there?
Sounds like something, yeah, like this, yeah.
Like you're saying A is a reason to bluff, and B is a reason to bluff, and therefore I bluff. That seems to be your thought process, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm probably scanning more mind range and what I do with mind range
Right.
rather than opponent's range.
Yeah, so you're starting with something that's not that relevant to your EV. What's relevant to your EV here is that you pick the highest EV line. And the way to do that is to weigh up whether checking is better than bluffing or whether bluffing is better than checking. And to do that, you need to look at two sides of it. You need to start with your showdown value. Because if your showdown value is 30%, there is absolutely no way in hell that bluffing is better than checking. Because if you bluff when you have 30% showdown value, you need to be more plus EV than 30% of this pot through bluffing, even though you're risking additional money that you're going to lose if called. So that would be near impossible unless villain was folding every better hand or loads of the better hands in their range against your bet. I don't think that's happening because one, villain sometimes has a queen. Two, villain has a jack, and I'm really not convinced the fish that plays this way is going to fold a jack here. I don't even think so. Three, they might even just call you with 6s or 7s. And 4, they might have a 4 or be trapping something very occasionally. So if you had no showdown value here, I would be reluctant about bluffing. I would bluff if I got here with absolutely nothing, and I think it would be marginally winning. But given that check is worth 20% of the pot, at least 15-20% of the pot here, I think that's how often you'll maybe 15% of the pot. Given it's worth that much, it just has to be better than bluffing in this case. So you're scanning for reasons to bluff. And if you do that, you'll just bluff every single spot where you have the chance to bluff, to be totally honest with you, or most spots. And a lot of them will be red leaks, coincidentally. Your play is not defensible for the reasons that you cited. I think your play here is a pretty big mistake. And you could have avoided it by first asking what the EV of check is, and then setting that as the bar for whether you should bluff, and not just, can I find some reasons, is it plus EV? Is bluffing plus EV? Yeah. Is it a good play? Absolutely not. It's horrible. But it's plus EV because it's better than folding. And 0 EV is folding, right? But you got to compare it to checking, and that's 15% pot. That's 6 big blinds. There's no way bluffing is worth 6 big blinds here. Against most villains, you don't have showdown. Cool. So I have 15% showdown then, because I have a fair whack against some villains. Right? I don't need much showdown before checking becomes the right play. So the bigger problem is, sorry Nate, I'll let you speak in just one sec. The bigger problem is that your fold equity against a queen or a jack is going to be very low at 5NL in this spot, to be totally honest with you. It's going to be very low. And it's not even that high against 6s. You guys are talking about this as if 7s is always going to fold. It's not. It's going to call you like a fair whack of the time, because that's what happens. So does your bluff get through often enough that it's 0 EV? Maybe, yeah. Does it beat whatever your showdown value is here to bluff? No. That's how you got to think about this. Sorry, Nate, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so like if we were looking like at comparing like bluffing the spot on the river to just like checking and taking our showdown value, let's say you were gonna like be 75 as a bluff, you need just fold like raw fold equity, you need 42%. Comparing that to checking, which has 15%, that 42% needs to go up to 57% just to be break even EV wise with check.
I don't think that checks out. I don't think that's how the math of that works. I think you're adding apples and oranges there. I don't think it works.
Okay.
But you're right that it needs to be significantly better. You'd have to do an EV calc, and the variables would be different on both branches, but you are right, it would need to be a lot higher. Yep.
And effective hold equity too, because we still do beat like any of the random like air hands that he was talking about.
Right. So what you have to understand is that when you're bluffing, there's a real downside, and it matters as well to your EV. The times you get called by a jack and just lose 27 big blinds are really significant to the EV of this bet. And honestly, given the flop action, I think your opponent has a jack here far more often than you think. Maybe not always, but you can't say, I think you'll bet the turn with a jack. Because guess what? A lot of people won't. Some people will, some people won't. And there you go. There's the call with 7s. It's not at all surprising. If you're surprised by this call, Reggie, or if when you see this call, you react by going, he shouldn't have called, I have all these good hands in my range, you're getting it very wrong. Like the mode of thought that you need to be good at poker. You're getting it very wrong. You shouldn't be surprised when you get called at 5NL by an opponent with 7s. And that's why you shouldn't be bluffing people in spots where you can win by checking a decent amount and your fold equity is not that high when villain's beating you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Cool.
I agree.
Cool.
So sometimes when you look at from outside after the hand is done, yeah, I think it's easier to identify the issues with the play.
And you've got to detach yourself from the hand when it's done, so you can do that.
When you play, especially normally play 2 or 3 tables, sometimes it just takes a few seconds.
Quick question here. Is this a prohibited bluff spot? My first instinct was that it's not, and I would have considered betting 1/3 pot, which needs to work 25% of the time. Just in case he has an underpair to the jacks like 7s, which, I mean, I would just try that out, see if that works. What's your thought? Is it a prohibited bluff spot or no?
What sample size would you need to see if it works? How many showdowns would you need to see if it works?
Right. I mean, it's just off of an estimation. It's not based on actual data.
Hang on. Answer the question as best you can.
Against this pool, probably like hundreds of hands, you know.
Okay. So how much of a dent will you make in that by doing it once?
Not really. It's just a Hail Mary, you know. It's not really.
So there's no seeing if it works over one iteration, then that's nonsense, yeah?
Right. What I'm saying is Ace King, I think, has low showdown value here, and you know, and my bluff needs to work 25% of the time if I
No.
take a 1/3 size.
No. No. If Ace King had 0 showdown value, your bluff would need to work 25% of the time to be as good as checking. But because Ace King has 15% showdown value or something like that, I'm making this number up, but it's not going to be far off that. Your bluff needs to work way more often than that in order to be a good idea. 1/3 pot is a bet size that will likely be called by almost all hands that beat you in this pool. And it is one of the worst ideas you could come up with here. Because when villain folds to 1/3 pot, you are almost always winning. And they will call you with almost all better hands. You guys are dramatically overestimating the amount of the time that a limper that's prepared to peel an 8 big blind raise preflop folds a river with a pair here. This is a person with blue leaks. They just limp called 8 big blinds. If you limp called 8 big blinds, Vinod, I would say this dude has blue leaks, right? So why are we not able to track the fact that these are our opponents? And I'm talking to Vinod here and I'm talking to Reg here. Why in game are we not able to see that? I don't know. I don't know why you guys don't see that in game. I feel like
I think
Chris...
it just takes practice more than anything, really. Just because I'm quite new to Silver Carrot. I went through all the lessons, but still I need to implement the strategies, kind of build in quick thinking process through the hands rather than I understand the concept and I absolutely on board what you're saying. I do agree with that. But
and I'm not having a go at you guys. I'm not here trying to make you guys
absolutely,
feel bad. I'm
that.
trying to get to the
What I'm saying
bottom
is just-
of these leaks.
The thing is, what I'm thinking is that theory. I went through, going through lessons again and taking some notes on my notepad and stuff. But it's just once you just introduce different concepts of play, and then it takes time to implement every single one. It's not like a
Absolutely.
computer and just write the new software and play like a new person.
Absolutely.
It's just it takes time to transition, I suppose.
I 100% agree. And I'm not sitting here saying, you've got Silver Carrot, you should be better than this, because I don't talk in Silver Carrot about the fact that everybody at 5NL is a calling station when they limp call 8 big blinds. That's not in the curriculum, because the curriculum's about poker theory, like a very comprehensive introductory course to poker theory that's very long, and you need to stick with it and take notes and be very thorough with it. And then there's an exploitative course about stuff you can do to beat people, and it's generally not beating like absolute calling stations. I kind of assume that that's like something people can already do. So I'm not actually talking about Silver Carrot or anything in it. I'm talking about why you have population dysphoria when you're playing. And that's nothing to do with Silver Carrot. You guys are dysphoric about who the population is, meaning that when you're playing Vinod and when you're playing Reggie and Chris and Nate, you may have this too to some extent, and you've just not expressed it as much today. So I'm talking to you two guys here mainly. You have an idea of people in your head that's different to the people that there are, and you're almost assuming that there's more fold equity than there is at these stakes with these lines. So that's kind of what I mean by why aren't we as aware as we should be of who people are. That's what I'm getting at. That's not to do with the theory. The theory will take time. You're bang on with that. You're 100% right. I'm talking about something where you need to flick a switch about how you see the pool. I'm not talking about something that takes months to assimilate when I say that. I'm talking about looking at a pool and saying empirically that's who they are when they limp call. They're blue league players. Think in those terms. Red, blue. It'll help. What leaks do your opponents have, yeah? And they're not you. Don't project you onto them. Definitely not. Yeah. Good one. Right. Who's going to go next? Let's see if we can... That hand took quite a long time. I think we should do one more since you're here, Reggie. I think we should do one more before we move on. Let's find another one. What did the chat suggest a second ago?
When was that? hand ago?
Uh,
Oh, but doesn't
18th
matter,
of
really.
August. These are all this month. That was the 18th.
Yeah.
It was
There was a pocket
1997.
nine hands that I thought.
Now you can see I don't remember how that. What hand, sorry?
There was a pocket nines hand. I think it was check the flop and then check all the turn, check all the river.
Yeah.
I can't see it on the
I've
window
got
now,
it.
but
I've got it. Okay, I will bring the right window up. So one thing you'll notice about me, guys, if you're watching this on Twitch, is that I am extremely intolerant. Why is it doing this? I'm extremely intolerant of OBS. Let's try again. Thank you. I'm extremely intolerant of students having the wrong explanation. And I never accept it when people say, this is why I did this, or what about this, or they kind of, I don't know, they try to get off the hook. I never let them off the hook because they're here to have everything completely exposed. So even when it's just an innocent back and forth, if I identify these big leaks in their game, I'm always going to call it out, and I'm always going to say, hey, this is your moment if you want to learn. This is where you've got to do it. This is where you've got to take the ownership. Because it's hard to know where to take the ownership sometimes. You know you've done something wrong, but where is it? What point in your thought process is it that you need to stop at and say, that's the problem? That's why we're here. Get the free starter kit, guys, at Carrot Corner if you haven't already. It will tell you whether you have blue leaks, like the one we looked at on the flop there, red leaks like the river spot, or green leaks. I don't think we're going to see in Reggie's game, but we might see in someone else's game green leaks are when you make bad non-investments, right? You should be investing, but you don't. Pocket nines. Open under the gun. Check. Villain checks back. Get called by button here, broken stack. Recreational player. We check in flow and our opponent checks right behind. It's a live vlogger impression. 3 of spades. Check. 3 big blinds. Call. Chris?
going back to the flop real
Mhm.
quick. I think I would just range bet here. Is that bad?
It's not
I mean,
bad.
we are out of position, so range bet. Okay.
So out of position, in theory, you quote unquote shouldn't bet range on all that many boards. This one you probably can anyway.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm a big fan of like people playing these stakes, just betting a third on friendly looking boards, and then having one less thing to worry about while they're studying the game. That's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that on this board anyway. Yep. But it's also not bad to check, right? Just because range betting is defensible doesn't make it bad to check nines either. That's okay. Check.
I will tend to do not bet like hands without backdoor. So I put some hands into my checking flop range, like those can withstand a couple barrels.
Yeah, see, listen, good C betting is extremely like copying GTO C betting is extremely nuanced and difficult to do. And it is true that hands with backdoors tend to have higher bet frequencies and solvers than hands that don't. That said, there are plenty of hands with very scraggly, ropey looking backdoors, or almost none that still bet flops like this. So that standard is it's not correct in a GTO sense, but for now it's not harming you that much, and I don't have an issue with it, but it's not sort of like capturing the full essence of GTO. It's just a directional thing, right? So backdoors may or may not be necessary. It depends on the spot. Don't worry about it too much. For now, let's leave that stuff alone. Okay, Chris, you brought this hand up, so we've seen a check call on turn here. Seems reasonable, and now we face this. So I'll get you to start with the analysis. Chris, what do you think about this spot? Flop goes check, check. Turn, they bet half and we call. River's a jack, and they bet near pot.
So so our range has strengthened by calling the turn. Like we're condensed, but we're a little bit stronger. Like we're a little bit filtered. Honestly, so my instinct is just like fold. I think that sometimes we hit a jack here, so we can have a jack sometimes, which is probably better to call with.
So I'm going to stop you because
Yeah.
right now your instinct is going to be much better at cards than your attempt to use your own range and analyze it and then figure out what to do, because the latter isn't even a thing. Like, there's no my range is this, therefore X. That's not a thought process. You can say my range is pretty strong here, and therefore I don't need to defend this hand to hit some defense frequency. But the problem by saying that is that you then imply that it's important to hit a certain defense frequency. It's not necessarily, it's not important at all. What's important is the EV of calling, right? And whether it's winning or losing. So I would actually limit all of your my range, his range, my range analysis to just when you're studying theory, right? And then when you're actually studying what to do at the table, you want to have some backdrop awareness of the context of the spot, sure. But then you want to go to your opponent's range for going check, bet on this texture, with this sizing, with this apparent player type, with the information and clues that you have. So
Yeah,
it's true that there are better hands to call in your range than nines, but that's a very dangerous thought process because it almost sort of implies that you should call those other bluff catchers for that reason, when like that might not be right.
Yeah, so I guess trying to read my opponent's range. I don't think this is ever a bluff. I mean, the only, like, what could he have? He could have a 10 that's, you know, just didn't bet when we checked him for some reason on the flop. A king is probably, I mean, he could have a king. He could have a king. He could have a 10. He could maybe have a jack, like queen jack or something. I don't think a jack would bet this size. We block queen 9, which is straight, but he could just still have it anyway. The only, I mean, busted spades, which we don't block, but I mean, that's probably not a large portion of his range anyway. So yeah, I mean, I really think this is just a fold, but I don't know if I could really justify it. Oh, I can't hear you.
You're on mute, Pete.
Sorry, does anyone agree or disagree with that analysis from Chris?
I sort of agree. Also, there was a cold call pre-flop from the button. So I think this is going to be a lot of broadways. I don't think busted flush is likely. And for this sizing, it's going to be a king or a 10.
We need 33% equity, and I don't think we have it. So
That's a good argument. It's a very good. That's the best argument I've heard today. Simple arguments like we need X, we don't have X. I feel lovely stuff. So another problem here is that texture and line are very bad, right? You've got the big three that you want to think about: texture, action sequence, and configuration. Configuration's neither here nor there. We got cold called. That's not as good as being against the big blind generally. It means villain has a more snug range. So it's not good for us, but it's not like the kiss of death necessarily. Action sequence. They bet twice, but the second bet was near pot. Has anyone watched our YouTube video that dropped yesterday? Does anyone know what near pot usually correlates to player type wise? It's not an aggro reg, usually. Aggro regs tend to B75, overbet. This is not very like fashionable sizing for a reg to use. It can happen, but very often this is a tighter ABC player, recreational. We know it's a recreational, right, from the broken stack and the pre-flop, but the point is that this is a greedy sizing. There is a magical force field that exists at pot. Did you guys know that? That if you try and go over pot, you get zapped from the clouds. Like Zeus literally throws lightning bolts at you and then you get electrocuted and then you die and you can't play poker. Did you guys know that? You can't go over pot if you're a recreational. You have to apply to the gods and say that you're a reg and prove it before you're allowed to overbet without getting zapped. That's why none of the fish ever do it. So this is greed. This is like, hey, I'm going to go as big as I can go without getting smited. And that's why you see this sizing. It's a very value-y line. Not bet, but bet, huge bet on this run out. That's what's very value-y. And that's the only data points that matter, and those mean that you don't have 33%. I'm going to guess that villain has...
I'm going to say Jack 10.
You're going to say Jack 10.
Threes.
Threes is a good guess. It's very consistent with the
Ace
action.
Queen, I'd say. I don't know. I don't remember. But I think Ace Queen maybe.
Yeah, it's also.
I think it's a
pretty good
random
guess.
king. I think it's king 8 offsuiters.
That's so gross if we get like polarization error owned by the king. Alright, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for Ace 10. I almost went for Queen 9. I
Queen
changed
9.
my mind. Yeah, there you go.
Damn.
But yeah,
That makes sense.
look out for
That's
giant
gross.
bets. Pot is terrible for you. Near pot is terrible for you. Slight overbet's not as bad for you because it's generally like some aggro reg that's doing that, but it's still not good in this spot. But the big three. Configuration, not good, not bad. Action sequence, bad because of the river sizing. Texture, horrific. Almost impossible to miss. Shit tons of value combos. Dead.
If the river was like the Deuce of Hearts, do we have enough equity then, do you think?
You have a
Like,
mandatory,
is there any river here where...
you have a mandatory call in the Deuce of Hearts against most bet sizes. Pot's still iffy, right? Because it's always a bit iffy. But on the Deuce of Hearts, you have to remember you've left villain really unfiltered. The Jack of Diamonds is so incredibly important as a card. Like, it's just night and day between the Deuce of Hearts and the Jack of Diamonds. It really is. Or Eddie Jack, I should say. All right, Reggie, anything you want to add there? I know we sort of did that analysis as if you weren't in the room. That was a bit rude of us. So anything you want to say?
No, that's fine. But I like I said, it's probably again I'm focusing more on mine range rather than on the villains. And I think in this time I would have thought that because I do have a lot of small pocket pairs and I do check some Jack X and so on. So I think nines and jacks is the only hands I would defend there. I would probably fold smaller pocket pairs and stuff. So I kind of again try to be a bit more balanced where I don't supposed to be.
Yeah, and you're not doing that accurately either, and I don't blame you because that's really hard to do that accurately, what you're trying to do. You're trying to run a bit here before we can walk. I wouldn't try and do that at all, because what you're missing is that you can play a king this way, you can hit a jack on the river with ace jack, or pocket jacks, and you can have ace queen. So it's not even true that those are the best hands in your range, and against half pot on turn, yeah, you do have a lot of pocket pairs, but it's also not true that nines is necessarily better to call than fives. Like, it's the same hand, plus or minus blocker effects. You block queen 9, you also block ace 9 suited, right? Which might be like, I don't know, it's hard to say. But there's no reason to call 9s necessarily before you call 6s. They're very, very close in terms of EV here. And also, the main adjustment here is, again, not to look for reasons to invest money. Your default is you just like investing money, and frankly, you look for reasons to do it because you like it. And if you want to get this out of your game, these blue and red leaks they are debilitating to your game, right? I'm not going to lie. They're currently making it impossible for you to make progress in poker. And if you want to remedy that, you have to start with a different emotional goal or a different end goal in poker. And it has to be truth rather than preferred outcome. Because as long as you prioritize preferred outcome, you'll just do the thing that lets you get your way sometimes, which is calling and winning. If you prioritize truth, then you'll do the right thing. But you need to figure out, how do I get to a point where I prioritize truth? And to do that, there has to be something that means more to you than what these preferences for calling and betting and investing money mean to you. There has to be something that can override that. And you want to think about what that is, because you might sit here and tell me, oh, I really want to be great at poker and I really want these things, but you don't want that enough. You're not resolute enough about that. And so you have to figure out, how do I get away from this preference, this bias towards investing? Because you're not just making random mistakes. We can't just put this down to a lack of experience. It is a lack of experience, yeah, sure. Same for all you guys. But it's more than that, because in some of your cases it's red, in some of your cases it's blue, in some of your cases it's green. And when you realize which way you're being pulled by your leaks, you realize what your innate preferences are and how they're destroying your game. And then you have to fight back against that by finding a higher order thing, something that matters more than that yearning to call or bet. What's that going to be? You have to think about that. Why am I doing this? What's it going to be? You need to be incentivized by something else that can counter this, or it'll keep happening. I promise you. You're not going to fix this through this conversation. You have to do much more than that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
People think, oh, this is great coaching. These guys are so lucky to be here and get this coaching. They're going to fix their leaks. No, they're not. They're not going to fix their leaks unless they really want to, unless they can say, what is it going to take to motivate me to put truth before preference? That's what's going to fix your game. And this knowledge, not just this knowledge alone. Right. We have a database to review now. I'm not going to review any hands. I'm just going to get a quick database check, and you guys are going to help me review this player. So we're going to create a new database here in PT4. Have a little chat amongst yourselves while I do this. What's a good discussion topic to chat for these guys? What's a good discussion topic? Let's give them a discussion topic while I set this up. First come, first served. Go. Could be anything. Anything you want. Three bet percentage is your discussion topic. What a nerdy discussion topic. You could have picked like sports. You could have picked like film and culture. You picked 3 bet percentage.
It's a good bluff spot. Which
What's a
famous
good
poker
bluff
player
spot?
do they want to emulate?
Okay, let's go for that
Bluff
first.
spot?
Let's start with famous poker player. Go.
I like Negreanu. I like Doug Polk.
I liked you
They're
until
cool
that
guys.
comment, Chris. I liked you.
What? What the fuck? Why? What? What's wrong with? I'm guessing Doug Polk is the one you take issue with.
Sorry, I'm going to focus on setting up this database or I'll literally never get it
Oh,
done.
okay,
I'll come
okay.
back to you.
Sure, coward. Okay, I see you. Anyone else?
I like Negreanu and Poke. I like Charlie Carroll more lately. The heavy mix.
There was
of,
some. I didn't actually read it, but there was some discussion about him in the Discord earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday.
about Charlie Carroll.
Yeah, I think they
I
were saying.
read that, yeah.
I didn't look at it, but I saw someone mentioning his name.
I skimmed through it earlier too. I know what you're talking about.
Speaking of blue leagues, did I'm guessing all of you saw the WSOP hand? The four spade board. The hero call.
Yeah. I feel bad for
Was
that
it-
guy because I mean, and like everyone's saying it's a terrible call, and it probably was, but like when there's that much pressure on you, and like you're kind of, I mean, like if he was right, the discussion would be completely the opposite. Everyone would be saying, "Oh, it's the best call ever." Like it's very results based. I think, like in theory, it's probably a bad call, but I feel bad for the guy. Just
I think in practice it's a bad call. Like when have we
Yeah.
seen that kind of a call being right? At
Right.
at those stakes. I don't think he was under that much pressure. The stack sizes were equal. He could have just folded.
No, by pressure, I mean like he's on the final table at the World Series of Poker main event. I don't mean pressure is in terms of like stack size and stuff. I mean like psychologically,
That's
like
pressure
it
off,
must
right?
be
You
so
made it,
difficult,
basically. You pretty
No,
much
no, that-
you
Bro.
guaranteed like 8 million or whatever ridiculous sum it is. So
Bro, there's no way when you're at the final table of the World Series of Poker, the entire poker world is like watching you. Like I'm feeling a ton of like anxiety and pressure just being on this stream with like how many people do we have in the stream chat here? Like like if I had the entire poker world like watching me play, there's no way I'd be playing my A game, dude. I would be so nervous. Like
And you probably hear Martin Cabral in the background. Not like
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
yeah, it was painful for me even watching the call again. Like, oh god.
Yeah.
Pete, did you see that? I guess he's busy.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
I've actually
Yeah.
not seen the hand. Does someone have the hand? Can someone link me to like a picture of the hand, or can
I
we?
haven't seen the hand either.
I could try and find it.
Yeah, these hands are still importing, so I'm importing an iPoker sample here. It's going to be like a few minutes, so if someone can find the hand, let's comment. Does Charlie Carroll still think Pete's a scammer? Actually, he So this is a long story. A few years ago, Charlie did a stream, and the title of the stream was "Exposing Poker Scammers." And a friend of
Nice.
mine said, "Pete, Charlie Carroll's calling you a scammer on air right now," and linked me to the stream. And I went on to the stream, and that was the title of it. And carrotcorner.com was up on the screen. So I kind of inferred that he was calling me a scammer. So I said, "Charlie, I'm going to come on your show if that's okay with you, and we'll talk about this." And he said, "Sure." So came on the show. We talked for a while. The next day, he sort of apologized and said that he didn't mean to say I was definitely a scammer, that he was just investigating people, and I definitely wasn't a scammer. And since then, he said another nice thing to me. That's really all the dealings we had about it. So I think he's already gone back on it. But who knows? Maybe he's now decided again that I'm a scammer. I don't know. But as far as I can tell, I think we were cleared of that allegation, at least by Charlie.
Pete, I posted the hand history for that World Series of Poker hand in our DMs. I know you hate written hand histories, but
I do kind of, but I'll read it out and we'll try and get to the bottom of it. Where is it exactly? In the Carrot Discord?
in our DMs.
Oh, okay. Really need some relationship advice from you. I know you don't normally do this sort of thing. Oh wait, that's the message above. Sorry, down to this one.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Chris didn't write that. 2 million, 4 million. See, this is why I hate. This is why I hate live poker. 2 million, 4 million. Just call it 1. Why can't the big blind just be like 1? Why do we have to do this, man?
It's a World Series of Poker, Pete. We gotta make it exciting.
Million. 4 blinds plus ante. Jumalon, 287 million is on the button, right? So Jumalon's on the button here. Let's imagine this. And Saskilati is in the big blind. Is this their names or like aliases?
Yeah.
It's their names.
The actual names, yeah. Swedish guy and American.
Okay. So Jumalon with Queen 5 offsuit limps the button. Seems fine. And Saskilati checks. And Jumalon, the button limper, has Queen 5 offsuit with a spade, with the Queen of Spades. And the big blind has Jack 3 of diamonds. On the flop, there's 12 million in the pot. Piss off. And it's Ace King 4 with 2 spades. Ace of Spades, King of Spades, 4 clubs, right? I'm gonna post this in the gonna post this in the YouTube chat. Oh, it's too big for YouTube.
I added a
Yeah,
screenshot here in the chat.
That's probably better to go off of.
I don't think I can put it on the YouTube chat. Oh, Twitch let me do it. Twitch let me. YouTube says no. Anyway, let's keep going. So we have this heads up limp pot. So the famous hand, guys, from the main event. Yeah, so from the main event.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically the final hand of the main event.
Okay, so we've got Queen 5 offsuit on the button, and we've got Jack 3 of diamonds, the big blind. It goes limp check. We've got Ace of Spades, King of Spades, 4 clubs, backdoor flush draw for the button with the Queen 5. Big blind checks, button bets 4 million into 12, and the big blind calls with Jack 3 of diamonds. That's got to be bad right off the bat. It just can't be a good call. There's surely not enough. I mean, it is heads up, it is tournaments. Is Jack high with the diamonds really a call? Probably not. Depends on who your opponent is. Maybe you can make an exploitative argument. Don't like it. Turns to Jack of Spades. So the big blind hits third pair and checks. And the Queen 5 of Spades now bets 40 million into 20. That's 2x pot. Is this a reg?
He wasn't a well-known player. I think.
And he's like 22 years old.
Yeah. Okay. A bit of a. He's from Washington State, so how good can he be? Online poker is very illegal in Washington State, so he can't have much experience online.
Very illegal.
It's the only state where it's a felony.
Right. Wow. So 2x pot by this regish player, and the big blind calls with the. I mean, if you're gonna call Jack 3 of diamonds on the flop, I guess you should just call the 2x pot on the turn, right? I think it's a fold again. I think the turn's a fold. Like, this is a terrible redraw hand. You're blocking a ton of the limp, button limp brain that then bets turn for 2x pot, which is 3-5s, you know, stuff like this. 3 deuce, 4-3, all of these hands that make sense for 2x pot. You're blocking a lot of bluffs here, and your redraw is basically dead against villain's values. It's a very clear fold. When villain bets 2x pot, you need to be folding more than half of your bluff catchers, right? And this is like a pretty bad bluff catcher compared to others. You could have your pocket pair spade is better. Your pocket fives with a spade is better than his hand by quite some distance. Okay. And then the river's the 6 of spades, so it then goes 4 flush. The button has made the nuts and jams for 180 million, basically saying I've got the queen of spades or I'm bluffing. And poor Saskilati calls the river. So he's called with third pair. And it's not really, to me, it's not that relevant that he's called with third pair. Like, for every poker annotator out there that's like, third pair, haha, this is just ludicrously stupid. Because, like, the problem is he's called with a bluff catcher in a spot that is highly likely to just always be the queen of spades. And why do I say that? Because unless I just don't know enough about Jumalon and he's some kind of utter sicko, what kind of player sits there in the main event, heads up with millions and millions up for grabs, and just decides to 2x pot a non-spade hand on the turn, and then jam, not just bluff the river on 4 flush where your opponent can easily have the queen of spades, but like literally just shove? No one. So I think it's a horrible call, but anyone that's saying that he has better calls and that's why he shouldn't call this hand, or that it's third pair, those are bad thought processes. Oh no, that's my analysis. What's the consensus in with the popular poker talk people, the live poker cats? What's the consensus?
There's a little bit of sympathy, but most people think it's a terrible call, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a terrible
yeah,
call.
more or less.
Yeah, I think it's terrible. I think the flop's terrible and the turn's terrible. I think all 3 streets are terrible, not just the river.
Yeah, I mean, most people are okay with peeling the flop. You know, it's a one big blind bet, basically, you know, C bet, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but the turn and river, almost everybody's saying it's just bad, you know.
You should
and
still
the
have a
river-
folding range on the flop, though. You can't defend your whole range on the flop to one big blind. There's still going to be hands that are theoretically minus EV to call. And this could be one of them. Maybe it's not, but it could be. It's close at least. Okay, anyway. We've got a database here, so let's review that now. What are you doing? Oh, it is the right window. It's just the wrong size. View stats graph. That's the old graph. I change this to the new graph. Clear the filters. That's this month. Let's go all dates. So this is the database I just imported. Wow. Look at this, guys. This is unheard of on this show.
Okay, just logging us, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, Pete, review my graph. I'm winning at, what is it?
Sample size.
Is it
BB per
24
100.
blinds
Yeah.
per 100?
Small sample size BB per 100, but probably a good player. I mean, not many fish that are hemorrhaging or are capable of this over 21,000 hands. It's very rare for a fish. So it's probably someone that's playing at least decently. This is a very healthy red line, blue line distribution, where your red line is like flat, surviving. This is not a passive player with loads of green leaks. This is someone that's winning their fair share of pots. They're scavenging, you know. They're doing well. And then their blue line is also really good. I mean, I will explain something though. If we look at the stakes here, we can see that it's 5 NL, 10 NL, and of course everyone's favorite 30 NL.
30.
30 NL. You may as well
Okay,
play
sure.
17 NL
30
at this
NL.
point. Yeah. Let's do a stats report. Player report. Silver Lab. Let's see. That's not very helpful, guys, is it? All right. So 32, 25, 7. Look at this, guys, right? C-bet flop 76%. What do you think that tells you about this player's game? What do you think their normal flop strategy is if overall it's 76%?
A lot of range betting.
Yeah.
B33, a lot of flops.
Yeah. And why do you think I often see players with like high aggression on early streets crush? Like I see players who don't know much theory. I said on X the other day, you get losing 25 NL players with 100 NL level theory because they just don't know how to click the right buttons at the right time, and then you get winning 25 NL players that have 5 NL level theory. This happens, and it's about clicking the right buttons at the right time. Do you remember Shu? Do you remember Shu that I taught?
Yes.
We all remember Shu, don't we? We all remember Shu.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Well, Shu knew nothing about cards, really, in the grand scheme of things. Didn't know much about the theory of the game at all. But Shu had a way better mental game than all of you guys. And I say this as an incentive, not as, haha, look at you, she was better than you. Her mental game was really good in the sense that if she had to fold, she just had absolutely no problem with it. She was just like, cool, have to give up, have to fold, not the spot, I just stay out. She was extremely good at getting out of burning buildings as soon as the smoke alarm went off, if that makes sense. She was extremely good at that. And she was extremely good at stabbing and winning pots when people were capped and weak. So all she basically did was she sat there and stabbed and c-bet and barreled turn and float bet the flop and check raised the flop when they range bet, had harvested and scavenged and had a flat red line. Not a winning red line because she was really good at folding, but a flat-ish red. Okay, it was a losing red line, but it was stabilized by all the scavenging. And then because she was insanely good at folding, her blue line just went up. You have a player that knows almost nothing about the game. That's a bit harsh. Doesn't know anything about formal poker theory, at least, and just has an excellent sense of when she's beat and knows which spots to scavenge in. Boom. Crushed 10 NL over hundreds of thousands of hands on a site where people say it's unbeatable based on rake, and knew nothing about poker theory as we're trying to learn it for long-term purposes, right? For a poker career. So when I look at this, 10 NL player, 30 NL player, I'm not surprised that they're doing well because look at their VPIP. Look at their PFR. They're opening the late positions super wide, like Bronze Carrot 2.1, the magic button. They're doing that. They're not 3-betting that much. They're probably just saying like, no thank you.
I was going to say 7% 3-bet.
In a really high rate game, they're probably just like, ace jack, suited, small blind against under the gun. I'm not going to bother. It's not a good spot. It's just whatever. It's not a hot spot. I'll just call and see what I can do. If they're doing that, then great. Maybe they could push that a bit harder and be 3-betting blind versus blind more, the hot spots more. Bronze Carrot 2.2. No, 2.2 and 2.3 are all about like the spots you want to 3-bet in. But yeah, you don't want to judge this and say this is too low, this is too high. That's not the right way of thinking about it. If you can have a long-term ambition to get better at cards, and at the same time you can try to optimize for the environment you find yourself in at the microstakes. If you find yourself at 10 NL, you both want to look forward to the distant future and midterm future and become a theoretician and know what's going on and know how the game works. That's a very noble pursuit. Learn exploits, learn how to beat regs, learn where their leaks are and become really good at theory. That'll make you great long term. But you also need to look around you where you currently are and realize that the leaks are massive in your pool and know which buttons to press to harvest against those leaks. And that's what this player is doing. And that's why they have a graph like this. They're just scavenging and harvesting in all of the right spots and staying out of trouble. If I could say like the two traits that make people crushers at low and micro stakes, they stay out of trouble and they scavenge and bully hard in small pots. That's what they do. They know hot spots, they stay out of the cold spots, they scavenge and bully, and then they know when to fold when things get big. What you guys are doing in your databases is you're not scavenging or caring enough about these small pots. You don't have enough of a ruthless, meticulous scavenging mechanism yet, and then you're just spewing everything and donating and needlessly sabotaging yourself in big pots over and over again. That's basically the upshot of what's happening here. So players that know way less than you about the game are having fantastic results compared to all four of you guys because of this. And I want this to be a wake-up call. This player here might not even be as good at the game as you guys. They might be worse. I don't know who they are. I don't know anything about them, but they could be worse. That doesn't mean they don't have way better results, right? So I'll let you guys digest that and think of that for a sec. I need to just chill here for a minute because I just ranted for ages. Look at c-bet turn, by the way, 33%. That could go up. We could work on turn barreling. There's still room for improvement here. Where do you guys see your own game in relation to this? When I show you a player that's just brute force scavenging early streets and staying out of trouble and is exceptional at folding like this player here, how do you see your own game in relation to that right now?
I see myself kind of getting too fancy, like scavenging in the wrong spots and like bigger pots, like how this player is focusing on a lot like the smaller pots and like really digging at those. I feel like I kind of get too fancy and like try to do the same thing in bigger pots too. Yeah. Just like that, like loser brain desire, like big pot, I want to win it.
Yeah. And that's when your population's filtered, right? So you shouldn't be doing it there because there are a lot of the big pots are underfolded. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the scavenging and stuff, I mean, I don't want to say I have it down, but I have an idea of what I'm doing there. But I get into trouble a lot in like big pots, and I get really sticky in spots that I'm not supposed to be, and then I just start like making big bluffs, trying to win the big pots and stuff. So yeah, I think getting into trouble is the real spot that I need to work on.
So it's like I'm giving you guys a recipe here, right? This isn't the end goal. The end goal is not to sit here today and be like scavenge and 3-bet blind versus blind and open button and then fold when the pot gets big. That's not good poker. That's not making you strong poker players. But it'll get you out of these fucking stakes. And it'll give you some quick wins, and it'll make you feel like you're building a bankroll, and it'll feel good. And it will be good. And you can continue to learn in the long term while you're doing that. That's what I did with Shu, because in previous episodes of Coaching Journeys, I was an idealist through and through. I wanted the long-term goal to be the only thing that mattered, and so I took Mark and I took Jess and I said, I'm going to confuse the hell out of you with poker theory. I'm actually going to make you try to get your head around how the game really works. And then it's sink or swim, right? And it's okay to do that gradually. It takes a long time. It's not going to get you quick results in a coaching series, and that's why those students didn't crush. Because they weren't being given actionable things to get them to beat those games really quickly. With Shu and with Jurgen, obviously Jurgen did, who was in the chat earlier, hello Jurgen, he did okay in the challenge as well. He was winning over the sample. Most people can't do that. And Jurgen, by his own admission, had a terrible mental game at times. And he was still doing it because I said to Shu and Jurgen, let's just show people that we can crush this game by you doing the stuff I recommend. And it applies to you guys too. Just do that stuff I recommend. Swallow your pride and your ego while you're at the table and trust that the end game will come, but it'll take time. And separate out a game long-term study from in-game clicking the right buttons to crush 10 and L. Separate those two things. Vinod, what do you think?
Yeah. I think I do see bet and barrel on good boards quite a bit. I think my big problem has been the blue leaks, calling too much, not getting out of the way, not getting out of the burning building, the last week I've been trying really hard live and online, to do what you said about that, that's purely a mental leak. It's not that I don't know if I can distance myself, 5 minutes after the hand. I'll say that's an easy fold, yeah, like yesterday in the casino, I made a horrible, sticky turn and river call. But that was my one mistake for the night, and then I recovered and I did really well, But yeah, I think
so.
You're
a player with a very low floor, but quite a high ceiling at times. And by that, I mean that sometimes when you talk about a hand, you impress me and I'm like, that's a really good thought for this guy's overall results and level and blah, blah, blah. And other times I'm like, how can he possibly call there? Like, what drugs has he taken just before this hand, you know? So when you're a player like that, you have to understand that the only thing that you need to do now, like for the next few weeks, is just bring that floor up. That's the low-hanging fruit to you becoming a winner. And if you can just do that by just even mindlessly pressing the fold button until it feels normal-ish to do that, you'll cure yourself. You don't have to use logic. In fact, if you try to use logic to cure a leak like that, it will never work and you'll just end up going insane. The best way to cure a leak like that is action. Just make yourself press the button and eventually it'll start to feel normalized. Just press it. I don't know what to do. Maybe they're bluffing. Is this a... Just fold. Fold every time it's a river bet that's big. Fold every time it's multiple bets in a row. Fold every time it's a raise and then a bet. Fold every time it's a river raise. For now. How many bad folds will you make? Like 1 in 27 maybe? 1 in 35? And you'll make 34 great folds that save your game. Just fold. And then you can figure out all the theory and stuff about... All the stuff about like what hands are meant to call and, you know, what spots are over bluffed. You can get really good at that later. For now, just get the win of folding into your game. And Reggie, when you look at that, how do you feel looking at this sort of winning player? I know it's not a big sample, but and then looking at your own game, looking at how they're playing, looking at how you're playing, what do you notice?
I do occasionally get kind of swings like that, but then, yeah, I do overplay sometimes.
So you're saying that you're...
That's why I know there's some fundamental and technical issues with my game. That's why I sign up, and I like the way you're teaching and your approach to the game. That's why I sign up with a Carrot corner.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you something though. What's the biggest difference between this graph and your graph? Like we can talk about winning and losing. I'm not talking about that. What do you think the biggest difference is when you just look at this graph and then look at yours?
Well, it's more betting and betting for value rather than calling. Mine are probably overbluff and overcall too much in the spots where I shouldn't.
Yeah, that's it.
But I do also bluff, so that's kind of helps the red line to balance out. But I think I overbluff and overcall. So I think those are the two main problems I have.
Yeah, so overbluff and overcall are fine if it's in the right spot, right? Overbluffing on the flop when you're checked to by the pre-flop raiser is exactly what you should do at these stakes, and overcalling is what you should do against a scattered line in a small pot.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's like...
spots, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah
exactly.
Bluffing the wrong spots and calling the wrong spots.
Yeah. The other big difference, by the way, is the swinginess. Your graph is like very jagged, up and down, swingy. And that's why in Starter Kit, which you can get for free, by the way, at Carrot Corner, if you have red leaks, you're generally going to have this jagged graph. Like if your graph is just all over the place, like Reggie's is here, you're going to see the opposite of this. I'll give you guys a very simple truth, right? And you might not like this, but this is a hard truth. Almost every winning 5NL, 10NL, or 25NL player has a smooth, risk-adverse graph, in the sense that they stay the hell away from these horrible burning building spots where no one's bluffing or where there's not enough fold equity, and they never bluff those situations. And that creates a losing red line, sure, but not massively because they're scavenging. And it creates a smooth winning green line. If I see a 10NL player with a swingy graph, 98% chance they're a losing player. Seriously. Because if the graph's swingy, you're taking big pot spots too wide. And those will kill you at low stakes because people underbluff and underfold. So you don't want to be...
Yeah, the thing is like a lot of my poker game come from watching YouTube videos rather than studying concepts and understanding that. So I'm kind of having the back of my head thinking, how do I get like balance and, you know, what range of I'm betting for value, you know, what part of my range will check and protect my checking range and stuff like that, which I probably should more bet and then, you know, just give up more often. So
yeah, you just want to have a rough idea of polarization, checking medium strength hands, bluffing some bad hands, betting some good hands for value, and then assess the overbluffed, underbluffness, exploitative stuff as best you can. But stick to general rules for now, like when they triple, when they raise river, they're underbluffing. Just stick to those rules for now. They're very, very good rules. They will protect you from all of this spew. Okay. So chat's right. Stop paying off nets. FFS. Couldn't agree more. Right. One of you is now gonna get some hands reviewed probably for the last half hour. You can all participate, but I think you should settle it between yourselves who it's gonna be. You gonna do like a rock, paper, scissors tournament, or how are we gonna figure this out?
Are we
don't
going
mind
to the
being
old
the-
database again?
Sorry, one at a time. Chris, what did you say?
Oh, I was going to say I don't mind being the sacrificial lamb, but not. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand. Are we going to re-review the database that we already did? Because the three of us have already
Yeah.
had some of our reviews.
Not the
you
database,
can
but
send it in.
more hands, you know? It's just whose hands we're going to use, really.
Okay.
Or what we could do is we could use these hands, and you guys could just tell us what you think. Unless someone wants their database reviewed, like, and wants it to be their hands.
I think.
I would rather
mean,
not have my hands reviewed for
Okay.
now because I think I'm a work in progress.
Okay. So,
Pretty cool
Chris,
having my hands reviewed.
you'd be cool to it?
Unless Chris wants it. Yeah, unless Chris wants it, then
if Vinod wants his hands reviewed, he can do Vinod.
Right, we'll go with Nate then. You said you wanted yours reviewed, Nate.
yeah.
Purely because you weren't here last week, and Chris, we did yours last week, and we did Vinod's last
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
And
I
then we
think
can
that's
go back to you guys the next week. Okay.
I just like being on the chopping block.
Yeah, it's good. So you should.
Yeah.
Because the more you embrace the chopping block, the less it hurts. Whereas
Yeah.
if you resist it, that's when it hurts.
Yeah.
When I coached for like lower rates back in the day, I'd get some resistant students that wanted to argue. And that was like the most, you can imagine what that did to me, like them arguing with me and like paying for coaching and then like kind of like
Yeah.
biting back with bad arguments when they're getting crushed at some micro stake. It was just like the worst. So you guys are good because you're taking all the critique well and you're doing it in
Yeah.
public as well,
I've
which is
also
great.
been like, yeah, like the last 2 weeks hasn't super gone the best since the first week, just like pure results wise, but like thought process wise, like my entire graph, I texted you about it, like my entire graph like flipped red line, blue line. It's actually really cool to see.
Nice.
Even though the results aren't there, it's cool to see like the thought process changing for a lot of stuff. Still not perfect, obviously. But
Did you send me any hands, Nate, this week?
yeah, sending them about an hour before the stream.
Ah, okay, let me grab them. Because it's good to review the most recent hands for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like when I've been reviewing my own hands, I've been doing August 4th was when we did the last review. So I've been doing like before and after August 5th and kind of like looking at the differences when
Definitely.
I've been reviewing my database.
Yeah. Okay, let's get some hands here. Extract. Okay, let's see how many we've got here. I think it's currently at the duplicates that I've already imported. Unless you sent me the same sample you sent me before. Maybe it's going to get
Nah, I
to the
had
new
it.
ones.
Yeah, there's about 7,000, 22,000 total, and like 7,000 are new.
Okay, so it's going to get to the new hands now. Look at all these random poker sites, guys, that people used to play on. LatAm Poker Network. Anyone played on LatAm Poker Network? What about Fish Poker? Anyone played on Fish Poker?
Can't say I have.
We've also got a starter and bronze mini Discord server now. Just set up last week. So if you get starter kit, you also get access to that. I hang out there. My resident pro, Akshar Patel, that coaches for us, who's the Mid-Stakes pro, hangs out there and gives out advice. We pay him to do so he has to give good advice. So you're getting all of that as well. And you can ask questions about the bronze course. So it's open to bronze and starter people, but bronze people get access to more channels. You can check that out if you do get starter kit or get bronze carrot. Carrot corner. Right, we have...
Is that a different Discord server from the one we're in?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
It's brand new. It just got set up, and it's for newer people that are doing bronze or starter.
Got it.
But we hope it's still valuable. We're trying to grow it and make it a valuable place for people to get some advice when they're just starting out. Okay, so we've got some hands here. I'm going to change hero to coin poker. That's what these hands are. And we'll say the date is this month. And we'll put on our relevance filter. Right, I'm just going to grab some hands and we're going to do a speed review here, guys. This should be fun.
Cool.
That's still the last hand. All right. So ace queen. So I've paused here because I'm going to give you an
Okay.
opportunity to say something, Nick.
Okay.
What do you think you should do here?
Yeah, so I think it's between call or 4-bet. And the reason I did end up going for call in the spot is because a lot of villains in my pool, they will people like to call on the button a lot just because they're in position. So I think it gives them a bit more of a polar range when they do 3-bet. So I think if I were to 4-bet, all the hands that I'm dominating just fold. Like my landing equity is decent when like facing this 3-bet. But I think after I 4-bet and get called, I'm kind of just not really doing all that good because I raised early position and got 3-bet on the button.
Okay, so GTO knows that, and it's still 3-bet. It's still 4-bet says queen. It doesn't expect you to be doing well when you 4-bet and get called. It's not a value 4-bet. It's actually a pre-flop. It's not so clear to talk about value and bluff because equities are very close together. It could be 60-40 even when someone has a better hand and a worse hand. Not like on the river, right, where someone has 100% equity and someone has 0. So it's never really great pre-flop to say I'm ahead, like I'm ahead when called exactly as if that's like a magic cutoff point. It's more just,
Okay.
do you get fold equity that's useful for your hand? Yes. And are you in okay shape when called? Sort of, yes. And that's why this can scrape into a 4-bet in GTO. The right play here, though, is fold. And people don't
Okay.
like it when I say that, but I'll explain what's going on. You're playing 5-L and the button's probably under 3-betting. They're probably not 3-betting as many of the fact they like the cold call says it all, right? They're going to have less 8s. They're not polar, by the way.
Yeah.
They just have more big hands. They're rarely going to find bluffs here.
Yeah.
Out and out bluffs. If they're not willing to 3-bet you with 9s, they're not, again, don't project you onto them. They're not going to be people that have 4-5 suited. So they're going to have a stronger range in theory. And in theory, this is actually just a fold. Or at least it's break even to do anything. So this is a cold spot, and I want you all always folding ace queen against the button 3-bet when you're hijacker under the gun at these stakes. It's a horrible spot to play post flop as well. How often are we going to go wrong in this situation post flop? Probably quite often. Don't have a problem with it. Don't have a big problem with it. Flop's probably a fold as well. In reality, ace of diamonds or not. But yeah, it's going to be very hard to turn that into something profitable, and people are under 3-betting. So full pre.
Could you give me 1 second? My doorbell just went off.
Yep. Here we're against under the gun with ace queen offsuit. And honestly, in this really high rate game, with a hand that's kind of meh, I'm okay with 3-bet here, but I also don't think it's a particularly great spot where you have to do it. Against a really wide range whale or something, we have to 3-bet here. But in this spot, you can just call. You can probably fold as well against like a tighter player.
I just wondering because I've been going through the poker corner, carrot corner ranges, and I think it was ace queen there as a 3-bet.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
not
I
just
only
about
3-bet.
whether it's in the range, it's about the EV of the hand. And if the EV is 0, or like what you guys need to think about is like, what's the EV of taking an action with a hand? Because that's actually the currency that matters in poker. Poker doesn't give a shit whether a hand is in a range chart. It cares about the EV. And the EV of this is at best break even to do
I
anything
know
with.
that's why I'm just confused because I tried quite a bit to study those ranges and understand a bit more and implement those ranges in my game. It seems to be a bit wider than I used to play. And yeah, just looking now, small blind versus under the gun is 75% free bet. No, I just wondering whether we should, try to, because this is 10 NL, is it 10 NL, 25 NL charts?
So what's it doing when it's not 3-betting?
It's folding, yeah.
Okay, so what's the EV of folding?
0.
What's the EV of 3-betting then?
I have no idea.
That's where you've got a big gap. Someone want to help, Reggie?
0 or close to 0.
No, it's 0, literally 0.
Yeah.
There are no lost leaders in poker. Do you know what a lost leader is, Reggie? If you don't, it's fine.
No.
Okay. And you guys know what a lost leader is?
It's
Yeah, basically
Yeah,
when a
it's
hand
when
gives up-
you
Sorry, go ahead.
we all want it. It's when you take a losing action, you're taking a losing action with the expectation that in the future you'll be able to make up for it with a greater gain.
Right.
It's like how Costco sells chicken for really cheap, but then other stuff are really expensive to get you in the door.
Right.
Or like a betting site says, here's the free $5 bet if you sign up.
Yeah.
Yep. There are no loss leaders in GTO. There's never ever a time in GTO where a solver takes a line that's worse in expected value than another line. So if you see a hand mixing, right, Reggie, it's that 0 EV between the actions, and therefore there's no reason for 3-betting ace queen. It being 75% of the time is not a reason. It just happens to be the frequency that the solver spits out. It's 0. So if it's 0 in GTO, where people fold a lot to 3-bets, it's probably losing against a tight reg here or tight fish here that's going to underfold to 3-bet. If they're a looser fish or a bad player, then you get the edge back, right? Because they're playing too many hands and now it's like a value 3-bet. But there's no reason to think that something that happens on the outskirts of a chart is something you've got to copy. Because at the outskirts of the chart, the fringe of the chart is basically 0 EV to play. That makes sense?
So basically, the ones that is not 100% free bet or call or raise, we should ignore those in the smaller NL5, NL10, and NL25.
Only in cold spots. That's why I keep saying hot spot, cold spot, hot spot, cold spot. If everything is on this much of a knife edge in the robot realm, then in the human realm, you have to think about where money flows. And it doesn't really flow to out of position players with marginal tricky hands and 3-bet pots. It flows more to in position players, because that's where your opponents have the biggest leaks. When they're out of position, they play way worse. So when you're the button and the cutoff opens, you actually want to stretch to 3-bet hands that are on the fringe of the chart, because it's a hot spot. It's a spot that's better in practice than the chart thinks. But this spot's not a hot spot because you're out of position against an already strong range. So humans are not going to mess up here. Hot spot, cold spot just means how good or bad is it compared to what theory expects, compared to what a chart thinks.
Yes. So I would kind of caution with the spot. So with me 3-betting, I generally would make the assumption that villain under the gun villain would be 4-betting aces, kings, ace king, like hands that like heavily dominate me, and the majority of worse hands they would call or fold. So my landing range when they call is pretty good, but then when they 4-bet, I can pretty easily get away from that. Is that a good estimation?
It's the premise is true, but the conclusion doesn't follow from it.
What do you mean by that?
So if you say, well, let me give you like a basic argument, right? So if I say, I am hungry and dogs are calorie dense, right? If I give you those two premises, would you agree with those? Big dog, bull mastiff, calorie dense thing to eat, and I'm hungry. Let's say those are both true, right? You can say the premises are true. Chat, what's the conclusion that doesn't follow from those premises? What do you think? You've heard this analogy before, surely. Does anyone know?
That you can eat your
No.
dog.
That I should
Yeah,
eat the dog.
eat the dog,
Not that I
obviously,
can eat
yeah.
the dog, but I should eat the dog. That eating the dog is the right thing to do. So that's an example of true premises, but a false conclusion. Because the problem is the therefore clause. Therefore, I should eat the dog. So what you've said is, and the reason I'm being I'm taking a logic philosophy route here, is that is a very good skill to have as a poker player, my biased opinion aside. So if you can say, if I 3-bet, I will know what their 4-bet range is. And it will be a bit unbalanced. I think that's
And I
true.
will get called. Yeah, and I was gonna say I would get called by worse when they call their
Okay.
when they call
A
free
true
bet.
premise. Both true premises, neither is sufficient for the conclusion.
Okay.
It's not enough to just focus on the worst hands that call you. There are some, but there's also a lot of better hands that call you. And also, when you get 4-bet, you've just lost 12 big blinds, so it's not a good branch for you either. It's not good because you have clarity on what their range is. That doesn't make it good in terms of EV. It just makes it clear. So you're saying true things, and then it's important to understand that your conclusion's not right just because you've said true things. You need to question the logic of your argument as well. That's really important for a poker player.
One quick thought. I don't think ace king is always 4-bet. I think a lot of players tend to just flat ace king, you know, in position.
Yep. That's sometimes
They can,
4-bet.
they can even trap with aces or kings here. You know, they don't have to 4-bet.
Yeah, but you want to think about what frequencies things happen at, right? You know, so ace king is kind of a straight mix in this spot. It's hard to say what the frequency is because it's close to 50-50. But
what I do in the spot.
Sorry, Reggie?
Yeah, what I do in the spot, I call 3 combos of I 4-bet 3 combos of ace king offsuit. I go by the suits, like that's how I chop them, and I call 9 combos of.
That doesn't
ace
matter.
king off.
It doesn't matter what your frequency is with ace king. It doesn't do anything.
I'm not gonna
for
try
you.
to assume doing that either.
You could call it always. You could 4-bet it always. It doesn't matter. I don't care what your frequency is. It doesn't mean anything. It's not a good goal to have a certain frequency of 4-bet with ace king. The way you're doing it's fine if you want to randomize. I'm just pointing out that it's just a nothing point. It doesn't matter what your frequency is. If my student always 4-bets ace king in that spot, I don't really care for now as long as they understand like what's going on in that branch and they can play it post flop. If they always call with it, I don't care either as long as they understand again like what's going on a bit post flop. I don't care about your frequency. Your frequency doesn't matter. Reggie, you've been fooled by charts into thinking that frequencies matter. It's a very common affliction, but they don't matter. Not in real life. There's no magical source of EV that comes from having the right frequency. In the same way that if I make a certain rhythm on my desk right now, it's not that like if I get that rhythm right, 10 grand appears in my bank account, and if I get it wrong, it doesn't. That's for me to try and make myself 10k richer by drumming on my desk in a certain way is no worse than you trying to get good at poker by having a certain ratio of call to 4-bet with ace king offsuit. It's the same. Just don't fold because that's an EV loss. That's the thing that actually matters, right? Don't fold. So what we're unpacking here is that you guys could do with understanding that EV is what matters and that many of your thoughts have absolutely nothing to do with EV, so no wonder you're going wrong in a lot of spots. This analogy comes from someone who's never eaten a delicious shih tzu. I like it. Grass-eating animals taste the best. Yeah, because it's just like, yeah. Let's not get into it, but I agree. Okay, so now this hand's fine post flop. This is one of the spots where like you can triple, but this triple, it'll be decent. I think it's winning. I think it's pretty clearly winning, but it's not the kind of spot we're bending over backwards to get into. It's not stabbing the flop against the guy that's under protecting their checking range. It's not as good as that, and it's way higher variance. But it's a good triple.
I do remember I did play this hand like 2 or 3 hours ago, so it's still a little bit fresh in my mind. I don't remember like every little detail of it, but I did spend like quite a while on every single. I was very torn, like on the turn if I wanted to go for the triple or if I wanted to just check and take my shot. It was a tough decision. It wasn't like close, or it wasn't one way or the other.
Yeah, it's a really hard spot. It's a really, really hard spot, and I don't even care right now whether I don't really care what your understanding of this spot is right now. as long as if you're not sure and it feels grim, you give up. I want that to be your default for now, because that's going to insulate you against all of the temptations of spew that are going to derail you. I'm okay with it.
And I'm doing that with calls, but doing that with betting also makes sense too. So.
Only in big pots when they've filtered a lot. The only reason
that
you can actually do this here is that the river was a king of spades. It's a very scary card for 10s and 9s and 8s and jacks, and it's a card that gives you abnormally high fold equity against those hands. That said, you're still playing at 5NL, and your opponent might still just be an utter station, and so it's probably not that good a bet, to be honest, even though in theory it's right.
There's also kind of, with that, I did kind of assume, even though, like, yeah, the king is like a little bit better than me, I felt like the villain was going to interpret it as being scarier than it realistically should be for me, which would garner a bit more full equity. That's like a little detail in the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that sort of inclination about your opponent, that's good. That makes it green light winning. I think it's pretty clearly a winning proposition against an ABC reg green league player. It's clearly very winning. That's important.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was a reg or a breaker who it was, but
yeah. So Bet My Life TV says when some hand is a mix, it's it's 0 EV, and in a vacuum it doesn't matter what you do in GTO, but in practice it does matter. It does in some spots, and in others it doesn't. In some spots it's really close, like with Ace King. I should clarify, with Ace King, when you open under the gun and get 3-bet by the small blind, I think it's pretty negligibly close between 4-bet and call. I don't think there's like a massive front runner play. It'll be opponent dependent, of course, and then you do have a front runner. In some spots, there's a very clear front runner play against population, and you have to take that. Queen 10, open hijack, called by big blind. And we go for big bet on the flop. I like that, because your pool's full of fish, and you flop the nuts, so you should size up. Awesome.
Yep. You're going to like the turn too.
Yep, lovely. Don't care whether this is like theoretically an overbet node. I think it can be, but it's not even important. What matters here is that, you just have a monster hand in a spot that's going to be a bit underfolded. Probably after they call a big bet on flop, they're typically underfolding later at 5NL. And now you shove the river, and you hope to get called by 2-pair or a set or something.
Exactly.
Good hand.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I really like the sand when I was playing it.
It's a good
I
hand.
think they folded, but
It's a very good hand. I pictured my son, like, when he does something good, I'm like, clap your hands, and then he applauds himself a lot. So I was picturing getting you to do that there, and I was like, that's kind of absurd. He's a grown man. Generally, his applause is for, like, putting stuff in the bin and things like that. It's, like, very advanced stuff.
yeah. This too, real quick with this hand, when you were showing the graph of the last player who had like the really low 3-bet frequency, but like it's still like the really winning graph and everything, like these type of hands came into mind where I think I'm pushing it a little bit too much, like trying to bluff pre-flop when I really don't need, like this hand I could just fold and it would be perfectly fine. I don't think I'm really gaining that much.
It's not that it's perfectly fine to fold, it's that you should fold and need to fold to do the best thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Because this hand is a 0 EV 3-bet. This is why the carrot corner method is theory, practice, action, right? Theory, population, action.
Yeah.
Theory, doesn't matter what I do. 0 EV. Population, underfold in position to 3-bets, especially at 5NL. Action, fold. Done.
Yep.
But I've got to play a7 because the good regs play a7 and it's a 3-bet. I've got to find these 3-bets to be good at cards. No, you don't. You got to think in theory, population, action, then you'll be good at cards.
Looking at other players' graph that really made like this point just hit a little bit.
That guy is just like, nah, fuck that hand. No thanks.
Yeah.
He's looking at the a7 and he's like, that guy is like he's a smart, I want to say a smart gambler, right? Like if you were like a good sports bettor, how would you think about your life? Like if you were a good sports bettor, you'd think, do I have an edge here? That's what you think every single time before you place a bet, right? But for some reason, it's okay for us poker players who are just another type of bettor, right? We're just another type of gambler. And it's okay for us to just do things for reasons that have nothing to do with whether or not we have an edge. Why do we not assess whether we actually have an edge pre-flop before we get involved in a fucking hand? Why do we not do that? Why can you guys and everyone else at these stakes not ask the simple question of whether you have the best of it if you enter the pot? Why? Because your brain is poisoned with a bunch of shit. That's why. I'm not saying it's your fault, but I am saying that unless you learn to think critically about where you have an edge and why, you can't be a smart better, and then you can't be a good poker player, right? That's really where it's at.
Yep.
Pete, a quick sidebar. Do you have any cold calls at all in the small blind?
No, I 3-bet fold in the small blind. It just keeps it a bit simpler. I don't think there's much like EV to gain by mixing in calls with all that, so I just keep it simple. 3-bet fold.
In most spots, yes. If a fish opens the hijack and you have sixes and you don't call, you have turned down what is by far the right play, and it's a disaster.
Yeah, I'd usually still 3-bet those, which that's
It's a disaster.
Like, so versus like a hijack open, I think like pocket 7s and higher, I would 3-bet, and then 6s and worse, I would fold.
Disaster.
Usually high.
Yeah, huge
Okay.
disaster. Again,
Fish should start working calls.
why-
into the small
you should
blind.
start thinking about what the best play is, frankly.
Okay.
Yeah, I exclusively cold call like medium pocket pairs, like below 7s, on the button, small blind, big blind.
I do that on the
I
button.
just can't.
On the button, I do that, but small blind is where I've just been 3-bet or folding. But that's a cool thought to look into.
It's deeper than that. You guys are thinking about, like, what do I do? I'm the main character. How do I craft my character? What's my game? And it's okay to do that when you get more advanced and when you've got a good understanding of EV. I learned this the hard way with Shu, because I tried to get her to form a base game and it was an absolute fucking disaster. And it was my
Mhm.
fault. And what I did wrong was I didn't understand that, like, what poker players... Well, I did, but I forgot for the sake of content, let's say. What poker players need first and foremost is the ability to parse a spot in terms of EV. To be able to say what is winning and what is losing. And if you guys don't know yet, and this is fine by the way, but if you don't know yet that 5s is a ridiculously winning call when a fish min opens the hijack and you're in the small blind, and that 3-bet is bad and fold is bad relative to that play, then you're barking up the wrong tree by talking about what you do and what your base game is. You should first be trying to
Okay.
figure out what's right. And preflop is a very important street. Just because everything's indifferent in a solver preflop doesn't mean that it's not completely on a knife edge in real life. There are some preflop spots where one play is dramatically better than the other, even though a solver tells you it's all the same. So the biggest pitfall that awaits people at your level is thinking that because a range chart's mixing, that you can mix every spot. You can in some spots, like that ace-king hijack getting 3-bet by the big blind. Yeah, getting 3-bet by the small blind, it's close. In some spots, it's just not close at all. And there will be a old man coffee who sucks at cards. You know? The kind of guy that thinks he's got a system for the roulette, that writes down the roulette numbers. And he's better than you at preflop because he's just been around for 42 years of being an adult playing cards and just knows that 6s is a really winning call when that drunk guy opens a hijack. And you're folding because you play 3-bet or fold? Come on, we can do better than that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to evaluate EV there. My intuition is, that I'm basically set mining, and people who are incapable of holding an ace or top pair, that's just valuable.
Yeah, exactly. You're mostly set. You're not just set mining. That's a massive oversimplification. People say it's just a set mine. Like, how can it just be a set mine against the fish? Like, how can it be that there's no other source of EV than hitting a set? Because if the flop is 4-3 deuce and you have 6s, you have a massive amount of equity, right? So it can't be that simple. But the thing that makes it more amazing in real life than in theory is the fact that you're getting paid way more for your set. Like, what's the most salient thing in the game tree to me? What matters to me when I have 6s in a small blind and hijack opens? Not what a fucking chart says where everyone plays perfectly, but what happens against this fish when I flop a set. I make way more money than I'm supposed to, and I do it effortlessly. I don't have to be creative. I just check raise the flop, bet the turn, shove the river, and the guy's going to call me down with kings every single time. That's why I make so much
they're going
money.
to jam on you, the moment you raise, they jam, because
Yeah.
they create your pair plus draw.
Yeah. But you want to play 3-bet or fold because it's easier?
Yeah. That's why I don't play 3-bet or fold. All the small pocket pairs, I just cold call them, When I'm not getting 3-bet enough, I feel,
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to just the massive amount of poker learners that have been misled by the poison of simplifying their own game pre-flop instead of thinking for themselves. Pre-flop is like I think this is a midwit meme moment, chat, you know, where the beginners like, yeah, I put a reel out about Pocket Jacks on Instagram. Pocket Jacks is a bad hand. 110,000 views. Jacks isn't a bad hand. Jacks is a good hand. Ah! Right? That's the guy on the left of the midwit graph.
Yeah.
Then the guy in the middle is like, actually, you should just make life easy and simplify out the cold calls. No. And then the pro's like, just call. It's way better than the other options. Right? So the fish and the pro understand that preflop matters in real life, and the midwit thinks it doesn't because he's looking at a graph where lots of stuff is mixing. The midwit doesn't think about EV, he thinks about fancy shit that has nothing to do with EV. Comes back to me drumming on my desk in a certain pattern analogy. It doesn't give me any money doing that. Even if I did it, it'd be fucking boring and I wouldn't do it all day. Rather talk about cards. Anyway, played A7 suited. This has been a philosophical one today, guys, but I think it's super important to like zoom out sometimes and look at your broad approach to poker and what you're actually doing and what you're actually studying and thinking about. It's not all just about reviewing a hand. Oh yeah, in this spot, by the way, the right play could well be to call this hand with this guy in the big blind, yeah. As long as you're... Like, do you know what the right line of thinking is here? It's just, I'm going to call and mine this hand against the weak pool and keep my investment small and have good odds. What makes a good sports bet? Is it good to bet on, I don't know, what do you guys know about like the Premier League, for example, English soccer, anything?
I played a fair amount of FIFA, you know.
All right, there we
ESP.
go. Right, we'll use you then for this analogy. So, is it good to bet on, let's pick a fairly bad team, Aston Villa, Sam, yeah? Lamstock mix, a fairly bad team like Aston Villa in the Premier League. Is it good to bet on them to beat Arsenal? It depends on the odds, right? If you're getting 11 to 1, it's good. If you're getting 2 to 1 and they're playing at the Emirates Stadium, it's not good. So it depends on the odds, and a good bettor and a good bookie, and everyone that's involved in gambling for edge knows that it depends on the odds. And yet you've got fucking poker players by the thousands showing up to play cards, simplifying their game instead of trying to work out whether they have the odds to call A7. It's mad. Like, let's just get back to basics for a second here before we can do anything else and figure out pot odds and implied odds, right?
Yeah.
Call's great here, especially with the fish in the big blind. But without that, it's just kind of calls break even, 3-bets losing.
Yeah. Even I think the hijack has a short stack too, looking back at it too, which makes it even better to just call it. So
Holly, I don't think Wayne Rooney's still, maybe he is still good. Maybe. He's a bit old now, right? He's more of a podcaster these days, believe it or not. Okay, so, all right, Nate, you teach me. You're the coach, I'm the student. So I open under the gun, and I think my hand is too strong to fold. Teach me.
Yeah, I don't really like this call. But
Why?
there's yeah, so big blind, when they're betting, it's easy for them to call. So when they do bet, that means they're gonna have a strong range. And when they're betting with a strong range, my hand's like indifferent at best.
Good.
It's a fold.
So theory says it doesn't matter what you do. Once again here. You guys notice how many spots are just coincidentally so break even in theory? You guys noticed how many? Imagine that was true in real life. That would be messed up, right? If that many things were just happened to be 0 EV after the chaos of the human brain being put into the spot. Not just the human brain, but a fucking 5NL player human table. How is that going to work out all break even? It's not. So, as you said, the big blind doesn't find the requisite bluffs to make ace queen defensible, and it's a losing continue. And it's a really mandatory fold. Look how often my students are just setting their money on fire, guys. Look how often it's happening to them. Hey, Ralph, welcome. Thanks for the kind words. Hey, Wayne Rooney's my age, Pidgeot or Queen. Watch what you're saying. And he doesn't even have a moustache to make him look younger, yeah? Paul. Good fold on the turn. Really good fold, mate. Well done. Proud of you.
Thanks.
Set less money on fire pre-flop, and we're going to get somewhere. Let's see if you've set money on fire this time. No.
I thought you'd be way younger than Wayne Rooney, Pete.
Sorry?
I thought you'd be way younger than Wayne Rooney.
Only marginally. Only by like a
Wayne Rooney's
year
my
or
age,
so.
actually.
You're like my age then, right? Almost.
Yeah, I'm 86.
He means
Aging
born in
myself.
86, I think. Yeah. Yeah, we're the same age. And Wayne Rooney. Me, you, and Wayne Rooney, we're all the same.
Wow.
We're all the same. I mean, you gotta remember, I've just sat in this chair for the last 7 years and talked about cards. It's quite easy on the skin. It's fine. If you've had to work, then like actually work, then don't worry, you're gonna look like 20 years older than me. I just get to sit here all day and drink hit juice. I'm not sponsored by that juice. It's quite tasty though. All right, check. Huge bet. We have a straight. Spot still sucks. No. No.
Okay.
Why no?
So in game, what I was thinking was, I mean, yeah, they overbet. I think I kind of didn't.
You don't
give enough
have to
credit
defend
that.
it at all. You don't even need to. You can just say like in game this thought came into my head. I missed the overbet and I reacted badly. Like your hands are raised against most sizes. But Villain's saying that they have an 8+ for value and the plus beats you. So what on earth is the point of raising? Right? It's a
Yeah, I think.
polarization mistake.
Yeah, I think where my thought process was that they could have like 2-pair or I mean, yeah, it's not really. There's like very few and far between like 2-pair and stuff like that. That potentially people could make the mistake of overcalling. Like
So-
in theory, if I were to raise and
How many hoops
even
is
like
that
small.
they have to jump through? They have
A
to
lot.
overbet 2-pair on 4 straight and then call a raise after overbetting 2-pair on 4 straight.
Yeah.
So you're asking them to do 2 completely absurd things back to back. And specifically have 2-pair in the first place. They have to jump through 3 hoops. They've got to have the hand in the first place. They've got to raise it. And then they've got to bet call. You're asking for an accumulator of 120 to 1 to come in. An accumulator bet of 120 to 1 to come in.
Yeah.
And you get away with it this time. You don't get punished because you run into the bluffing range. You don't achieve anything either. You don't even get a showdown out of it. It'd be good to see what they had. That's not the point.
Yeah.
No, he's
If they
definitely...
would have raised here. Oh yeah, they would have raised here. I would have folded. But
Again, irrelevant to the decision at hand. Like, yes, you have clarity if they 3-bet, you fold. I should hope so. But that's in no way a reason to raise. So this is a torch, right? Pointing out all the torches. This is a big, big torch. And it comes from not reacting enough to the value range your opponent's actually representing, which is straight, mostly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap this up in a sec. But one more hand for good measure. If you're watching this, guys, and you're thinking, what do I do next to get good at cards? Probably less of what you've been doing. Guess. Maybe you're on the right track, maybe you're not. If you're watching this at home. But one thing that will definitely get you on the right track is taking our starter kit, because it's free and it will diagnose your primary leak for you and give you direction and send you on a mission. You can then take Bronze Carrot into that mission and study a proper foundation to help guide you through that next phase where you start improving the right thing. Okay, so pre-flop spot. Do you think this one overperforms or underperforms as a 3-bet in real life?
Overperforms because people don't fold enough to 3-bets.
Good, and you've got a big hand against the fish now, so it's a different situation. Yeah, all pro plays is ace queen apparently. Yeah, if it's not ace queen, I'm folding it pre. Only like ace queen. Okay, so I made a video about this recently. So when they donk the flop, they're a volatile fish, right? You already know the player type. This is the volatile fish. That doesn't mean you can do anything. You should probably just fold here.
Okay.
It's hard to do it, right? Because what's actually going to happen is you're getting 3-1, right? So your question is simple. Do I make back 25% of the resulting pot when I put in the 680? That means you need to get the 680 back out of that pot, right? It's going to be a quarter of that new pot.
Yeah.
So you need to get the 25% pot. You need to get the 680 back. How do you get
Yeah.
25% of the pot? Well, if you hit a jack on the turn, you get all of villain stack as well, but that's not that much extra, but that's great. Get an ace on the turn, that's okay, and you're going to go with it now, and you're going to do fine. And if you get a queen on the turn, you're just not that great at all. And if the turn's anything else, and your opponent shoves, which is what's going to happen, you're going to fold your hand. So you're not actually getting 25% of the pot back, are we? If we're actually going to be honest about this and not bullshit, we're not getting back 25% of the pot here, are we? We can't be.
Yeah.
What a surprise. What a surprising, unusual outcome, you know? It's just, like, people make this call because it's a gut shot and it's one bet and it's half pot, but you've just got to get good at being a better. Not like someone that bets, being a punter. If you were a punter that was trying to make money at the bookies or the horses, and you were actually a professional sports bettor, you'd have to be so... Do you know how sharp these guys are? That play, like, greyhounds, or sports betting, or any other game of skill and chance for money. Do you know how sharp they are? They're, like, insanely sharp. They know all these connections. Yeah. They've got all of these edges and information sources. They react quick. They've got AI these days, blah, blah, blah. They're so sharp. And then you got poker players that won't even ask, is it winning for me to call this bet? They'll just rely on some vague pattern. I swear to God, poker is the laziest, sloppiest profession in the world, where even people that make money at it are shit at it because they don't even ask whether something's plus EV. It's wild. Isn't it mad that we live in it? But you know what that means? Do you know what it means, guys? That's what poker is? It means that you don't need to be as sharp to win. Yeah, it's easy money.
Right.
It's easy EV. Because poker attracts all these people through the promise that it's a game of skill. But if you don't try and figure out whether an investment is a winning or losing investment, you're not playing a game of skill, you're just following rules. And that's what everyone's doing. So they're trying to cope with all the information. Maybe we need a course on just simply processing pot odds and equity and implied odds and fold equity and just leave it at that. It's like a back to basics course. There's some of that in bronze. There's a lot of that in bronze. But maybe we need a even more like explicit course about doing that. I don't know. But that's what I'm seeing a lot today with you guys. I'm just seeing you're trying to do too much before you've got the basics right and you're thinking about the wrong things. And when I get you thinking about the right things, you can do it. You're good at poker in the sense that you can answer the questions that are the right questions well enough, but all the asking of the wrong questions is the issue as far as I'm concerned. You should fold the gut shot on the flop. Absolutely.
Oh, was this a donk bet?
Sorry?
Did the villain donk into the hero here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You basically have like a zero equity spot. Not a zero equity spot, sorry, a zero fold equity spot for the most part. Like sometimes this is absolute error, like it can be. But the problem is, let me put it to you this way.
I know what you're saying, Pete. I know you're right, but it seems way too tight to fold to just one bet.
No, that's fine. I've given you an argument for why it's minus EV to call the flop. If you don't want to engage with EV and you just want to say it seems tight, that's up to you. Fine. But it's not going to tell you what's right in EV.
I'm not debating. What I'm saying is, it seems unintuitive. I think maybe a play and explain that that you've done before. I think that's the sort of thing that'll maybe
it's unintuitive.
Internalize.
It is unintuitive, but that's because in most situations in poker, this is never a fold. Like with a deeper stack, this is never a fold. The only reason here
that
it's bad is that this combination of calling flop and folding the turn happens very often. And if the turn is not an ace or a jack, you're not going to win. There's almost no times that a fish that's decided to do this just checks the turn. It does happen occasionally, but it's very rare. Yeah, it's a situational thing. And it is way too tight to fold. It's just bad to fold this in most situations. Give villain another 20 big blinds. It's horrible to fold. I think here, honestly, like it's very close to a fold. I'm being a bit, I'm exaggerating a bit here, right? Because I'm not, I don't want to say that this is like horrible to call or anything like that. It's not. But people think that, people don't assess the actual EV in this spot is the problem.
Yeah, I didn't even pay attention to the villain's stack size. He has 29 behind. If it's a 100 BB stack, I'm guessing, it's more
Yeah,
normal.
so that's what I'm talking about, right? Like not paying attention to the stack size. You can assess what's too tight and not too tight if you aren't looking at implied odds, because this spot is like mostly implied odds, right? That's what
Yep,
it's all
absolutely.
about. It's close. This is not like a horrible call. It's just that like you need to get a quarter of the pot back. And very often this will happen. Very, very often. And that puts a big dent in the EV of calling.
I think I underestimated how much they were going to continue on the turn. I think like my thought process wise, that's what I was kind of messing up on.
Yeah, and that's because we don't have the experience yet to predict behavior. And once we get really good at predicting opponent behavior, we don't have that problem anymore. But the opponent behavior is they are a fish that's down to their last pot size bet on the flop. How often are they not going to keep betting the turn? No matter what they've got, they're just going to keep putting the rest of their money in most of the time. And then if you can't continue there, and maybe you can continue here because maybe it's a whale. If this is a guy that can have anything, you just don't fold at any point. You shove the flop, you call, or you shove here. But that's what ruins EV, is that realizability and implied odds are both terrible. And a gut shot needs either realizability or implied odds or both, or showdown value. And if you don't have showdown value, realizability, or implied odds, it's a bit of a fake nut gut shot. It's not actually got the strengths it normally has. I'm just saying that on the flop here, this is already very close to a fold. It's very zero to do anything to investor.
Yeah.
Yep, good mandatory bluff find. Good. That's the spot we always want to see you bluffing. Let's finish on a high. We opening 7 under the gun.
Yes, river bluff sizing on this. I didn't super catch the rest of the hand, but I used to just kind of default without thinking about it to B75 on the river. But I've been trying to work in spots where I feel like villain is like really, really capped and they're going to be extra elastic. Bluffing, like just seeing what I can get away with and just betting smaller. Just less risk for the same reward.
Yeah, it won't be the same reward, but it'll be like, I hear what you're saying. They can be
like, I don't think there's any hands. Yeah, I don't think there's any hands here that villain would call B33 that they won at B75. I feel like it's kind of the same range calling bowl, so it's like I might as well go with B33 if I'm going to bluff here. Just save the extra.
That's
7.
Definitely too strong of a claim, because like if villain has 4s, there's going to be people that call 4s to one size but not the other, or if they have ace high, that's going to happen sometimes. So you're making stuff up there. That's too strong. Yeah. But the direction of what you're saying is roughly right, but the formulation of it is far too strong. It's just absurd now, the way you formulated it, because there's a pool of players here and there are people that will call 5s and to B33 but not bigger. But that's not the point. We don't need to think in these like absolutes. We can just say how far does which direction does the needle move? That's all that matters in poker, is like where's the needle moving? And if it's moving towards them being inelastic, then it's defensible to go smaller with a bluff and bigger for value, and that's often what's happening in these games. So directionally what you're saying is fair, but be careful about these really extreme formulations. When you say I don't think there's any hand that calls this but not that, that just cannot be true of a large population of people. It can be true of one person sometimes, but it can't be true of a large population. And when you study mass data, you see that there's always movement in the market depending on how big you go.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but even if you say most people call all the same hands to X as they do to Y, that's false as well. So you just have to have a bit of a weaker claim when you're saying these things. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap up there. What I want you to take away from this third Silver Lab is to see through the smoke screen and to avoid the shit that doesn't matter. And I want you all to just focus on simple questions this week of, is this plus EV? Is this the best play? Why or why not? Just your hand, their range, pot odds, implied odds, fold equity where applicable. Get that basic shit right, and then we'll worry about everything else later. Like, keep doing Silver Carrot, just keep absorbing it. But you guys are all at a level where there are still foundational things to make sure you fill in first before Silver Carrot's going to be, not that it's bad for you to go through it now, but before it's going to be like totally right for your level. To be honest, we're still at a level where there's stuff we've got to do first and get better at. Thanks for watching today, guys. go check out the starter kit and get the direction of your leaks diagnosed and start working on it. And when you're ready to get bronze, it's a very cheap investment, like compared to like all the other stuff that you can invest in poker, compared to coaching, compared to everything else. So just get the fundamentals right, get the foundations right. I don't care about the $99. Like that's not a big part of like Carrot Corner. I'm not sitting here saying get bronze because I don't care. I care about like all these students just like not having the bedrock, you know, and not having the fundamentals, and then going off and failing from there. So yeah, get starter kit, get bronze if you want it. That's what I can do to help you guys on the whole. I have the full scholarship, but not anything else. Oh, we can upgrade you to gold if you want. Just message me on Discord and we can get you an upgrade. That'll get you access to all pro videos as well as what you've currently got, and grade E of the Carrot Poker School if that wasn't included, and Weapons of War and Cash Injection, which are good exploitative courses. So we can upgrade you. That's my Discord. If you want an upgrade, just message me. I'll figure out what you've got by looking at your account and shoot you over a code. All right, guys. All right, Nate, Reggie, Vinod, and Chris, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next week for the final Silver Lab. I hope you've been enjoying this so far. It's been a lot of fun for me. It's been lovely to work with you all. And yeah, I know I'm coming down on you kind of heavy today, but I'm just really trying to make an impression today of what you need to do. And I hope it sticks.
It's good.
By the way, shout out to the hand review videos that you do. 30 hands, 30 minutes is really good. I like how you're harsh, you know, with your ratings. Thanks, Pete.
I like to be harsh. It's fun. All right, guys.